Okay, guys, so episode 7 of the Better Podcast, we're back. I'm your host, Lorenz Cole, and today we have a special guest. I was just joking with him earlier that we were dealing with practice sessions before we get on to the big legends of South African football. So this guy is a former Bafana Bafana captain, the record appearance holder, 107 caps. He corrected me earlier. 107 caps, over 200 games in English football for Blackburn Rovers and Portsmouth. He played for clubs like Ajax Amsterdam, Beerschot, Genk, Bayer Leverkusen, Jomo Cosmos. None other than Aaron Mbazo Mokoena. Welcome to the Better Podcast, my brother.
Thank you, Lorenz, for having me, brother.
Firm handshake there. I can see why you were the skipper.
That's why they call me the X.
I'm glad I wasn't playing football during that days, because you had a notorious reputation abroad and in South Africa. But just to start things off, personally, the last time I think the general mass media and the fan base heard about you was when you were employed by SAFA, and that was just after I think it was your first foray into professional coaching space with Cape Town City,
right? With
Jan Olde Rickering. Very interesting period for City. But are you still at SAFA? What is your role right now? And
yes, I'm quite involved with SAFA. I'm in scouting department with SAFA, working closely to the technical director Walter Steenbok and David Nyati. We're doing scouting for SAFA. I'm also the assistant coach for under 17. That's what I can say right now. There will be announcements very soon about the other vacancies that are there. Hopefully I'll be moving from under 17 to do other bits. But to answer your question, definitely I'm within SAFA,
I'm hoping it's the under 23s, because I think that is one of the areas that I'm a bit worried about. But let's not get into that. If I'm not mistaken, it's maybe 2 years now into this role. This is your second year?
This is my second year at SAFA, yes.
Okay, so do you find in the specific role from scouting, firstly, is it local scouting or is it international scouting to monitor players? Has there been any progress in what you've been doing? Because many people have accused SAFA of letting, some talent slip out of our fingers. Maybe we're not monitoring the players correctly overseas and things like that.
Look, our job is to scout South African players who have the ability to represent the country. But those are the boys, obviously, throughout to Bafana Bafana. I don't know which talent we have slipped out, because we've been to Malawi, Kosafa. This was last year, 2 years back. November. 2 years back, November. We had quite a lot of good players that no one knew about. I can probably talk about Mabena. No one knew much about Mabena. Most people who really are involved in development, they knew Mabena from School of Excellence. But we scouted him, and he became part of the squad that went to Kosafa in Malawi. We came runners up. We qualified for Africa Cup of Nations, and the boys did well. I mean, we had to scout players that qualifies for under 17 international now to integrate with the local based. Yes, I mean, I can say obviously, money's always been a problem in terms of traveling abroad, get players from abroad to come and be part of the national team. But going to Africa Cup of Nations last year in Algeria, we managed to get, I think, about 8 players who are playing abroad. Great talent, I must tell you. So and we even had a bigger squad before going to Africa Cup of Nations. Players that obviously we had to cut players to get the requirement number, which was 23 players. But we looked around. We had players from USA, players from Europe. So our department is doing a very good job in terms of identifying where South African youth, I would say, are at. And you know, SAFA, I would probably say yes, people can talk, but I'm within SAFA. I'm a person who really talk. I mean, when it's wrong, it's wrong, and I tell as it is. So I think SAFA really supported our scouting department very well in terms of identifying the talent we have abroad. And we kept in touch with the clubs, we kept in touch with players and the managers of the players, and they managed to represent the country last year in Algeria. So so far so good. And the fact that SAFA, we're now actually moving in a direction of investing the energy, investing the money into development now. I mean, you know very well, you have highlighted that I'm still, the most kept player, the youngest footballer ever to represent Bafana Bafana. It's about time. I really want to get out there and develop or look for that youngster that will break my record. You know,
get 108 caps.
There we go. I mean, it's doable. It's just to get out there and really, develop properly. You know, I always say, yes, we do have coaches, but what Walter is doing now, Walter Steenbok, it's absolutely what we actually needed for a very long time by getting qualified coaches. To coach these kids, because it starts from the coaches. You need to have right coaches to coach the kids. It's like being in a class. You need to have a right qualified lecturer to lecture the kids.
Yeah.
Then you know what you're coaching. Yeah. So far so good, I think.
I think there's one thing that just came to my mind now. There's a misconception between a lot of the general public that if ex-player is playing for, I don't know, let's just make an example, Villarreal.
Right.
A South African kid who is playing for Villarreal or Dortmund. Maybe his parents moved overseas. He gets an opportunity.
Right.
There's a misconception that most of the time that specific player is immediately better than a player that is at, let's say, Kaizer Chiefs' development. But you would know this better than others.
For sure.
When you're not a professional, when you're not playing in the English Premier League, I think the playing fields are not that big in terms of ability, from those players. And that's what, when you said you had to cut this humongous camp into 23 players, I'm sure you saw that. Siyabonga Mabena or Luke Bartman, for example, was perhaps better than somebody that was abroad, that perhaps they didn't have those opportunities. Do you kind of agree there?
No, I do. I mean, money talks, and you have lucky youngsters with parents that have money that can send their kids abroad for better development. That's what people believe. They believe that abroad, in terms of development of football, it's better. Yes, I agree. But we have clubs in South Africa here, your Cape Town City, your Sundowns, your SuperSport, who I know, definite that they very spot on when it comes to their development. They make sure that they have qualified coaches. They have nice pitch or fields for players to train at. Nutrition as well. It's broad when we talk about this coaching. But again, to come back to your question, we had a youngster from Spain, a central defender, probably taller than me, and he wasn't good enough. And he plays in Spain. We had another one in West Ham. He wasn't good enough, So for me, I think yes and no. There are, clubs in Europe that are very good in development. as much as we do have here in South Africa as well.
But they're not professionals yet.
That's the problem. That's the problem. I mean, there's so much of, should I say, brown envelopes?
I wouldn't say brown envelopes, but there's a lot to go by between under 17 or under 20 to professional ranks where things can go wrong. You know what I mean? So you could be on the books of a elite football club's academy, but then you can also just disappear. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. But Lawrence, for me, it's let me just make an example about myself. You know, when I left South Africa, I was only 16 and a half.
And you had already made your PSL debut for Cosmos.
Yes, I played probably 15 games with the beautiful Jomo Cosmos. You know, I then had an opportunity to go for tryout at Ajax. The fact that I graduated in Cosmos, and I was playing for the under 23s.
But you came through like Cosmos for a couple of years, or did you?
Yes, I played in Caltex. Then was your under 17. I played in at reserves at Cosmos. I then played in the first team, and I also played with the under 23s. So for me, it was a bit easier when I went to Ajax for tryout because I had.
But how does that just randomly happen for a 16-year-old? I'm at the point of interest.
Yeah.
How does that randomly happen for a 16-year-old kid at Jomo Cosmos?
Look, you mean going to play at Cosmos?
No, like to get a trial at.
It's through the Ajax Amsterdam scouting department.
Through playing for Majita or something.
Playing for the under 23s.
Okay.
And Rob Moore obviously was quite involved with Ajax, and remember the
Benni
Ajax Cape Town
and Ajax Amsterdam.
Exactly. So Ajax Amsterdam have invested in Ajax Cape Town. So that actually I think I was so fortunate that Ajax was more focused in South Africa.
It was a
or
network
in Africa.
beginning to develop.
Exactly. So that's how actually they've heard about me.
Okay.
And they invited me for tryout. And getting to Ajax, I mean, it was quite easy because I was in an international. I had that a bit of international experience.
Okay.
But when I got to Ajax, I had to play in the development league, and I was playing in the Tucoms, they call it.
Yeah.
So that is a development,
like a DDC.
Of course. But I promise you, when you at Ajax at development, it's not, the focus is not only football. In the morning, I had to wake up, go to school. From school, I'll come to the to training. When you get to training, obviously you have your lunch, and you obviously start training after taking your lunch.
Yeah.
After lunch, you have classrooms to do your assignments. You have tutors. After class, you have your dinner, and you go back home. So it was a routine. And I always say, would be nice. I know there are clubs in South Africa that are doing that, but would be nice to adopt what's happening abroad, and really be firm about it, because it works. I mean, I like to talk about Ajax because it's where actually I grew up. Being at Ajax at the age of 17, it really helped me. That move to Ajax helped me a lot. I mean, conducting interviews, your body posture. You get those. It's not only about football, what to say and what not.
It gives you that squeaky clean image over the course of your career because of football education as well. But just to go in, where did the Leverkusen link come? And then, Ajax is a very place that they don't mess around. You need to have some technical ability.
Yeah.
So Ajax, Leverkusen, and then Belgium. Just take us through that journey?
Do you have 5 hours? Okay, then it's fine. Then it's okay.
Let's put it together because the actual important part
Yeah.
is this is just want to contextualize how you became an English Premier League player.
Right. Okay. Then what happened then when I went to Ajax Amsterdam for tryout, Leverkusen were interested as well.
Okay.
I went to this Toulon tournament in France
Yes,
with the under 23. Leverkusen was there watching me playing. Immediately after the tournament, they wanted to speak to me. Jomo had to fly over to France to have a chat with them. Now, the matter was, within two clubs. So 2 clubs were interested in me. So, but Leverkusen actually came first to put the money on the table. That's how actually it happened for me to go in and play in Leverkusen. But to be fair, I didn't even play a single game in the first team. I only played in reserve. My heart was still at Ajax because obviously then Benni McCarthy was there. And the environment was quite conducive. It was suitable for me. I felt at home. I felt that being in Amsterdam, it's can work for me at that particular age. Then Ajax had to buy me from Leverkusen at that age. So yes, that's how actually I got to play for Ajax.
That's very. I didn't know much about that because we were mostly focused on you. Or maybe that's because of my generation when you were in England. But over the course of your career, you were an extremely committed player. We never had headlines, Mbazo rejects Bafana, Mbazo loses his passport, his visa. You know what I mean? And that's how you got your status as a record holder for caps. You played in multiple AFCONs. You played in World Cups. Do you feel that you were undervalued by the public? Maybe it's different now in a social media era, but that time there was newspapers, there was, seeing people in the streets or whatever. Do you feel that you were undervalued because you were a regular at the highest level? Like, let's not beat around the bush.
Look, Lawrence, I wouldn't say undervalued. It's understatement, I would say. You know very well, once you played for Pirates, once you played for Kaizer Chiefs, in South Africa, you're one of whether you can be a horrible player, but the fact that you played for those teams, you get to be liked in a sense. So for me, the fact that people didn't know much about me.
Yeah.
I left the country when I was very young.
Yeah.
People started knowing me while I was in the national team. That's when actually people knew about me. And again, the fact that you go to England, you become the Freeman of London, you play in FA Cup final, you become the captain of Germinal Beerschot. I became the captain of Portsmouth. For me, I didn't really care about what people say. It was about my job and what my relationship with the coaches. And I think I have really did well in that aspect. And coming back home, you get people who would like you get people who didn't really favor you.
Yeah, but I think one thing that people also talked a lot about was that you were a defensive midfielder in Europe for the most of your career. When you came to Bafana, you were centre back. It's kind of a similar situation now, where Mtobi Mvala, I'm sure you relate a lot as a holding midfielder, centre back. Were you comfortable playing at centre back, or was it also a lot of pressure? You train in a specific position, you play in a specific, and then you come and then you just in a completely different position.
Look, I think what worked for me, Lawrence, is the fact that I was versatile.
Okay.
I could at Blackburn. I went to Blackburn as a centre back.
Okay.
I played quite a lot of games as centre back. But Mark Hughes, the manager then for Blackburn Rovers, played me most of my games as a holding midfielder. I played as a right back as well, but most of my games was holding midfield, and and centre back. I was comfortable. Yes, I was really in the national team here. Most coaches, they liked me as a centre back.
Okay.
You know, probably because of my stature. You know, but how vocal I was, being able to read the game. We had lots. Remember, in South Africa, actually, we have lots of midfielders, but less defenders that can play international standard. Coming back to South Africa, if really a coach, Carlos Pereira, can see me as a centre back, that means you know, he knew what he's doing. So I was quite comfortable to play those positions. I could play, like as I said, I could play right back as well. But centre back, holding midfield, it's where actually in England I was playing it.
Do you think that because you weren't so known coming into the national team, there was a bit more pressure to impress?
Not really, Lawrence. I mean, for me, pressure, I don't know what's pressure. The only thing that I knew is that I always wanted to represent my country.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoyed every moment when I was with the boys, when I was earning my caps. Pressure, once you play for South Africa, more especially Bafana Bafana, any team in the world wants to beat South Africa. Bafana Bafana, more especially here
Alman said the same thing.
Especially here in Africa. Yeah. I mean, once you wear the national colors, it's not as easy as when you wear Kaizer Chiefs colors. Not as easy as when you wear, you know, Pirates colors. I would say Sundowns, they understand now, because once they go to Africa, they still represent South Africa, and every team wants to beat Sundowns. So when you come to the national setup, it's absolutely it's interesting. It's a totally different level, and I enjoyed actually every moment of it.
It's funny, you actually played with some serious players at Blackburn. Now that I'm remembering, Tugai was in front of you.
Tugai Keremoglu.
Let me not get into that. You had serious players, Cam Pedersen, Bentley, but okay, that was good memories for me. But anyway, do you over the career, like, which were the best players you played with? Now that I don't want to be biased now that I mentioned those guys. Yeah. But for club and country, which was the best players you played with and against?
How many players you need, Lawrence?
Let's say top three. Let's say top three.
Okay. I think the first one will be Brad Friedel, which is the goalkeeper, the American goalkeeper.
Played like 1,000 games consecutively.
Telling you, I mean, he was unbelievable. Yeah. Yes, I played with him, and I would say Tugai as well, as you mentioned, Tugai Keremoglu, unbelievable with the ball. What he could do with the ball, even today, actually, I haven't really seen much of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy could smoke. That guy could smoke probably a day 2 packs.
Smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
And then he comes and he scores a screamer.
He would run more than players that don't smoke. I'm not really, you know, promoting smoking in football, but I'm telling you about what you could do in the playing field.
And that was at like 36, 37.
Exactly. I mean, I played with him. I think he was getting old when I played with him, but he would run more than players that are younger than him. And Martin Gemst, Pedersen as well. What a left pack he had. You know, we knew that with set play, Morten is there. Very quick on the left, you know, crossing, unbelievable. Maybe the last one I would say, it's Benni. You know, at Blackburn, I played with Benni. Benni came in at Blackburn, and he scored goals. I mean, Benni could score goals out of nowhere. You know, he had that quality of scoring goals. Yeah. As you wanted 4 players, I think those are players that stand out for him.
Pedersen gave him a lot of those goals on the platter.
Absolutely.
But over the 13 years in Bafana, do you feel that there were any players that you felt were done by or overlooked, or you just sat there like, oh, why is this guy not in Bafana?
You mean those who were in Bafana or out of...
No, like when you were in the Bafana squad and, you know, you follow football.
Oh, yes,
and it's like, maybe somebody came in and he was never in again. Or somebody you watch and you say, Why is this guy never in Bafana?
I can't think of any, to be honest, Lawrence. I mean, back in my years, I cannot really think of any. I think I was quite fortunate that players that came to the squad are players that were doing well at their clubs.
Okay, then maybe rephrase underrated. Who was the most underrated player that you played within Bafana?
Within Bafana?
Over your 13 years.
Oh, no one. No one. Listen, I think the coaches that I had at Bafana were coaches that knew what they want from players, and they knew their selection. They could spot a player who has the ability to deliver for the national team. Maybe the only coach that I was maybe if we talk about the coaches, the coach that
you had a lot of coaches over that 13 years.
The only one coach that I would think I had to sit back and ask myself, what is he doing as a coach for Bafana? Dumitru, may his soul rest in peace. But we don't want coaches like that. I mean, in our coaching courses, we always say, as a coach, you have to be honest to your players. You have to be fair. But I don't think he was. I don't think he was an honest coach. I told him, I told him that I can't play for a coach who's a liar. I mean, there's situations that happened when he was at Sundowns that I've heard of, and there's a situation that happened with me in the national team when the national team was going to Tunisia after a Cup of Nations.
It was a horrible AFCON. Probably our worst one.
The worst. They didn't score a goal. They didn't score a goal, the guys, and they came back with 0 points. So then I was playing a FA Cup final. And I had a chat with him to say, can I please play FA Cup final? I mean, come on, we're talking FA Cup final. And he agreed. He agreed that, no, it's fine, boy. You can come immediately after FA Cup final, and I did so. I played FA Cup final. The next day I was in a flight coming to join the guys. When I got to the camp, then he says to me, "Hey Munna, hey,
you're not in the squad."
No, you okay. We had the players had to vote for the captain. I'm like, okay, no problem. No problem. I don't play for the national team to be the captain. I always love to represent my country. But where's my vote? Because I was part of the squad. That's democracy, isn't it? Yeah. So the guys voted for the captain.
Voted, or that's what he was saying?
Voted. He was saying. I didn't know. I don't know if it happened, but he didn't know two things. One, the votings were day before I arrived. That's one.
Okay.
Two, in the national team, you don't vote for the captain.
Yeah, you select the captain.
The national team executive committee sit with the coach and they choose which player becomes there.
So who was voted?
Benni was the captain.
Okay.
Which I had no problem with. Zuma was the vice. Then I said to him, look, the fact that you lied to me, I can't play for you. And I packed my bags. I went home.
Unfortunately, he was gone like a couple of weeks
there we go. There we go.
But actually going into this coaches is actually interesting. We had Carlos, we had Santana that were working with Coach Pete. So towards probably the warmest, memorable years of South African football, not because of what happened on the pitch, but just because of hosting a World Cup, a 2010 World Cup. Do you think, this question is very loaded. Do you think we could have done more in that period preparing for 2010 World Cup to have been more successful? And this is in a sense of identification of coaches, identification of players, preparation, and so forth over that. I think it was maybe 6 years preparation, or more than 4 years. Firstly, the coaches. Were they the right coaches?
Lawrence, I think we did have good coaches. The only probably where I didn't understand it's when Carlos got family problems and he had to step out and Santana took over. I mean, Santana was was a friend to Carlos, and that's how he got the vacancy.
There was no interviews in between.
And again, I mean, most players like in due respect, players like Nomvete, wouldn't understand his English. A lot of players wouldn't understand his coaching method and English, and he did not succeed. Whether we could have been, and again, I mean, remember when we got the World Cup. I mean, it's 4 years before. Ne?
I think in that period they named the World Cup hosts twice, like the 2006 end.
Yes.
So it was more than 4 years that we knew.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. For me, honestly, I think we have done enough.
We did.
We did actually. I mean, remember the players flew to Brazil, Jamaica, USA, and different players because more especially with Carlos, because he didn't know much of South African players who can really play in international standard. So he had to really look probably all players from your then it was NFD Mvela then yes, from Mvela to PSL, and he did so till the last selection of players that had to be in the squad. Remember, he even had to drop Benni McCarthy. He had to. I mean, I think for me, Carlos was one of the best managers. Pito Msimani can say, they can attest to that. He was one of the best managers that South Africa have ever had. Not talking about Hugo Bros right now, but then, and he was the proper...
He won a World Cup with Brazil.
Exactly. And he was the right manager during that period. Because the preparations that we went through before the Mexico game, Lawrence, we've done stuff that I have never seen in my life of football. That guy actually would tell you that if you more than 11, like above 11% fat percentage, you don't play for his team.
So he was quite modern, even though he was like an older.
He believed that once you lean, once you can be able to play in the World Cup.
Okay, so that explains why Benni was not in the World Cup.
Exactly. So and he actually so many times he could say to us like,
was he upfront about it to him and the squad? Like, this is why he's not in.
What he did first, he called myself and Benni in the room to tell him that, look, not even actually, before then, he gave Benni the programs to help him to lose a bit of weight. And the last day that he had to, maybe 2 days before, he had to announce the squad. Then he called me and Benni, and he told Benni why he doesn't call him. Actually, he won't take him in the squad. And he even said that you're the best striker in South Africa, but my principles are my principles. I believe that you're overweight to be part of the squad. So that's how actually he dropped Benni.
But how did Benni and you guys as a team take it?
On the spot, for me, I tried actually to convince Carlos, but Carlos was a person of principles. Was a manager of principles, because in the meeting he even said that he worked with your Rivaldos, Romarios,
El Fenomeno.
And you could see that they were fit players, because he even brought a condition coach from Brazil, one of the best condition coach that I've ever worked with, to help Benni and to help the team. That squad, I've been fit, but 2010,
you guys could run.
We were so fit. So I mean, I think really when it comes to the coaches and the preparation to 2010 World Cup, we've done what we had to do.
He was actually an interesting coach. Actually, he would find play, like you said, the talent search that he had.
Yeah.
Dikhatshwe, Kuboni. Where did these guys come? You know what I mean?
Exactly,
And that was
exactly.
never done previously. Because a lot of the time we were selecting players on popularity and playing for the big team. So you do make sense there. And then Dikhatshwe even ended up in Premier
Fulham.
League.
Yes.
From Golden Arrows to the Premier League.
Exactly. Crystal Palace and then Fulham.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it was Fulham Palace. Then
yes,
Cardiff.
correct. Yeah.
But anyway, going to our current generation under Hugo Broos, do you think there's anything to be excited by right now? And if so, what is there to be excited about?
Look, I always said it. I think I still remember the first interview of Hugo Broos. He is exactly the same as Carlos Pereira.
Okay.
He knows what he wants. He knows how to win games. He knows what kind of players can win the games for Bafana Bafana, okay, or what kind of players have to be in the national team. So his interview, he said he actually had an interview with Thomas Mlambo.
Yes.
At SABC. He said to Thomas, "I wouldn't force the player to come and represent the country. Whoever who doesn't want to play for the country, so be it." You know, and from there, he went to look for players that are capable to play for Bafana Bafana. He got us,
close.
He got us close, to be fair. I mean, we qualified for Africa Cup of Nations, which was his mandate. We got close to win the Cup of Nations. So I think we absolutely in a good space at the moment, based on exactly the facts that I have put on now.
Yeah. But you're happy with like the style of play, because I think that is one of the concerns from people, to say, we're not exactly very pleasing on the eye, but I think with the standard of, so be careful what they say, but with the players that we have, at what level they're playing, PSL, you can't compare to UEFA Champions League, like in the Moroccans and the Algerians. But do you think he's playing the best way to get results? So we should be okay with the style of play.
Look, I've got nothing wrong with Hugo Broos' style of play, because suits players that we have. People kept saying he took Sundowns players, yeah, and we playing same as Sundowns. Look, Spain came to 2010 World Cup for so many years.
Yeah.
Had Barcelona players,
yeah,
and they were playing football that is suitable for players that they have. So I think
nobody criticized that.
No one did.
Yeah.
No one did. And right now that we reached the quarterfinals of Africa Cup of Nations,
yeah,
we should applaud the Hugo Broos and applaud players that they have put us where we're supposed to be at, and build. Now it's all about really building from where we are at the moment and complaining.
But I mean, building is also not just what the coach can do. It's like you said, improving the standard of the PSL, improving the development structures, our unders, and also seeing our players progress to different levels. So I want to ask, are we perhaps stifling our talent in the PSL by not letting them, giving them their blessings to, you can reach a ceiling. Let's say you had Jomo Cosmos until 23.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have had 107 caps or 108 caps for Bafana.
Fair enough.
So do you think we're stifling our talent by not doing more to see them go overseas?
Look, I understand what the president Patrice Motsepe is trying to do. He's trying to keep the money in Africa and embrace our African football.
So you're well versed on that,
and try to keep best players in Africa.
Yeah.
But for me, I always say it goes back again. I'm going to emphasize on this. It goes back to the coaches, to the type of coaches we have, and whether do we understand that yes, there is a club level, but there is international level as well, which are different.
Levels.
I always say, if you want to be the best, you have to rub shoulders with the best. And where do you find the best?
In Europe.
There we go. I mean, I would probably say we have one of the best league in the continent. But it's important that when the opportunity arises for players to go and rub shoulders with the best, they need to get that opportunity.
Like, look at I think the biggest case study now for us is Mokoena.
Yes.
Sound development at Harmony Academy, under 17, under 20, under 23, Olympics, AFCONs, World Cups, senior team, footballer of the season. Now what? He's reached the ceiling. He's AFCON player of team of the tournament. How do you improve now?
But then, Lawrence, you know what's important? The important factor here is so to call European clubs. They don't have to underestimate African players.
Yeah.
If they want Mokoena,
must pay.
or they want a good player in Africa, they should pay.
Yeah.
Once you put the money on the table, then you appreciate the quality of the player. So I think really by not letting Tebo to go, it's because of the money.
Peanuts.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. So it's important that people out there respect Africans and respect the league that we have put together. If you want good players, pay.
Yeah, I think maybe with Bafana, on a road to doing better now on the international stage, maybe that will improve. But I opened up questions to the public.
Wow.
And I said, do you have anything to ask Mbazo? Look, there were some harsh questions and things, but I chose 3 that I felt were of value.
Okay.
He said, I heard this is from Tabo Lebepe. I heard Jomo Sono asked you to turn down the Soweto Giants after he promised that he will take him to overseas and play for Bafana one day. Is the above statement true, and who discovered you?
I don't know none of that.
Okay. Who discovered you?
Jomo discovered me. I played in a interprovincial tournament under 17 at Vets. Jomo came to watch the tournament as he always do, and he saw me playing, and he took me from there.
But I mean, you said you're from the Val, right?
I'm from the Val.
So how did you get to Wits?
I was playing for VFA, Val Football Association.
Okay. There's another question. I don't know if this guy's real name, but it sounds like a nickname, Lindos. How did you manage to deal with the criticism in Bafana Bafana every time you were called up to the national team because you weren't a fan favorite?
Look, you know what happened actually? Which is what I'm trying to do every time when I get to analyze the games. We had agents at the studios to analyze the games. Back then, SABC, yes. We have the David Gekanis.
I remember, yes.
David Gekani Walter Mokoena. Those were agents of players.
Okay.
Those were journalists who were pushing their own agendas to put their players in the national team. So that's how it came about. I mean, I'm going to say what I said again. Being the captain of Portsmouth, playing in FA Cup final, being the captain of Germinal Beerschot in Belgium, what does it say to you?
There's something. So you're saying there was a public discourse from mass media and agenda setting to not like you?
Remember that once we sit in there as journalists or as
we have a powerful
as
platform,
agents, especially on SABC. Whatever that you say on SABC, an ignorant person will take it.
Yeah, it's like, for example, there's like, let's say there's 10 youngsters that's very good in the PSL right now, and I talk about only two. I talk about Mofo King and Chandra Campbell and ignore the other 8. The public is also going to be talking about them.
There we go. So that was the assumption. But like as I said, for me was to wear the national colors. Yeah. And luckily I didn't buy any collab. I worked hard for it. I didn't buy any cap. I never had personal relations with the coaches. All the coaches that coached Bafana Bafana, they always send a collab letter to invite me for the national setup.
The final question is from Bokang Mawela. What was it like playing for Portsmouth and Blackburn in the Premier League? And what is your biggest moment of your footballing career?
Yeah, playing in EPL was out of this world. I'm still saying, as I'm the analyst at SABC for English Premier League, I'm still connected with the league. It's the best league in the world, revenue-wise as well. You feel that you are a professional footballer once you play. You can play in your championship. You can play in your English Premier League, but it's the same. You are treated as a professional. Every training, every game that you need to turn up. So it means the world, and it's been the league that I always dreamt to play at. So for me, actually, yes, it's unbelievable. It's a league that players that played in England would probably attest to what I'm saying. It's a league that everyone would love to play. It's a tough league. Very, very tough league. And I enjoyed it. So FA Cup and the World Cup, those two events that, say FA Cup.
Those under Redknapp.
No, that was Avram Grant.
Really?
Yes, that was Avram Grant then. 2010 it was.
Was Lassana Diarra?
Yeah, correct.
What a player.
Correct. Yeah, so that was 2010. So Avram Grant was my coach then. Yeah, so FA Cup final against Chelsea in Wembley. When I say Wembley, yes, it was one of the best. 2010 World Cup at home, the first World Cup in African soil. It was the best, and I would probably say playing in the Olympics as well. In 2002 in Sydney Olympics. That was beating Brazil. Those probably are the highlights of my events that I've been part of.
I'm just thinking now, like every game was probably like an atmosphere like a Soweto derby, because in England it's packed stadiums, hostile atmospheres. I can only imagine what they calling you in the crowd, saying things, talking about your family. But I want to ask you this: how is your mental health after this? Because I honestly think if anybody was playing at that level, they would probably get goosebumps every time they play. You at such a high, your dopamine is that. How is your mental health? Aren't you missing that days?
Look, I had this question before, and I said it was the moment that I had to be there, and I have done what I had to do. I gave it all in every moment.
No regrets.
Of every opportunity that I got. So no regrets at all. I think really I did what I had to do. So I enjoyed it. I'm still enjoying it now by analyzing it. But I think I've reached the ceiling, as you always say. It was beautiful being there.
I think you're one of the few footballers who can really say that. We're always talking about what could have been this, but honestly, it's been a pleasure just to pick your mind on things. I'm not gonna say that I was like completely confident that it would go this way, but I'm blown away, and I think that you're in the right place, like you said, with SAFA now, and I think we can be excited about what's to come, because you've been there, you've done that, and I think our junior national teams might be in much better position over the next few years. So thank you for coming to the show.
Lawrence, thank you for having me. And I can always do my best, with my coaching badges, with, sending the right message to these youngsters. We always say we develop human beings.
Yeah.
Some wouldn't be professional footballers, but some would be, and some would be doctors. So for me, actually, is to get in there and I won't coach these boys by saying when I was playing. Football evolves.
Yeah.
So for me, being there, I'm enjoying myself, and I would make sure that I'll bring my A game to these boys.
So guys, there you have it. Thoroughly enlightening episode with Mbazo over here. He didn't say it, but I think he's indirectly saying that he is going to find and nurture and lay the foundations of that next footballer of tomorrow that is going to break his record for Bafana Bafana one day. Very enjoyable chat with him. Episode 7 of the Better Podcast. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Until next time. Yo guys, for the freshest football content, follow 10Bet South Africa on Facebook, X, Instagram and YouTube.